Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. Part 3. It was a bright and sunny day in Konoha as everyone was still celebrating the engagement of the Konoha's most powerful couple. The couple was happy that everyone had gone all out for them. No party was this big in village history. As the couple woke up to the sunshine, they got adjusted to the fame they were getting. As Naruto woke, he saw his girl still sleeping with her arms around him. He tried to separate from her, but he couldn't as the grip increased and pulled him back into the bed. Man, she doesn't want me to leave, does she? He said as he smiled. He kissed her cheek, which caused her to lessen her grip on him. He was able to nudge free and get out of the bedroom. He went into the kitchen to get some water, then he stared at the door. There was an unusual amount of mail delivered to his house. With the cup of water in his hand, he picked up the letters and sat on the couch. He read to himself through the letters. Dear Naruto and Tenten, may you both have a good life together. I can't tell you how happy I am to know that you two will be getting married. I am happy of you both. I wish you both happiness. With luck, Hinata. Wow, Hinata, I will have to thank you for the letter, he said as he scanned the rest. Naruto, you have always been youthful, now you are shining more brightly than ever. Keep up the good work and keep loving Tenten, your youthful friend, Lee. Man, again with the youthful mess, but thank you, Lee, Naruto said as he read one more. Naruto, you won someone's heart. I can't believe it. I know you will make her happy. Continue on this road and you will share both good and bad times together. From the Junin. The senseis are so weird, but I will thank them all for this letter. He nodded as he noticed Tenten come from the bedroom. Hey Ten-chan, you are up, he said as she shifted her gaze at him. Hey Naruto-kun, what is that in your hand? She asked as he handed her the letters. They are a few letters from our friends, he said with a smirk. He went into the shower as she read the letters. After 20 minutes or so, the two were getting their clothes on to go out. As they had prepared everything for their day, Naruto closed the door behind them. They walked on the street as they felt the happy stares of the citizens on them. Man, this is a little uncomfortable, she said to him as they walked. Yeah, but it isn't unexpected, I guess, he answered as they walked down to Sakura's house. After 15 minutes, they arrived and knocked on her door. After a minute, Sakura answered the door and saw the famous couple in at her door. Naruto, Tenten, what can I do for my newly engaged leaders? She asked as Naruto turned to Tenten. Well, Ten-chan, like we planned, I will take my leave now, he said to her. She turned to look at him and smiled. Okay. Naruto-kun, see you later, she replied as a confused Sakura who was still at the door. Naruto jumped to the rooftops and headed for Shikamaru's house. Tenten turned back to Sakura. Sakura, I would like your help in planning my wedding to Naruto-kun, she said to Sakura. Sakura's confused face turned into a happy one as she closed the door on Tenten. After 4 minutes, she appeared again with some new clothes for the day. Well, what are we waiting for, Tenten? Let's go, she said as she grabbed Tenten's hand. They headed to Ino's house, then went to Hinata's house. Meanwhile, Naruto finished jumping the rooftops and landed in front of Shikamaru's house. He knocked as Shikamaru answered the door. Oh Naruto man, what is it? He said yawning as if he just got up from a nap. Naruto smiled to see Choji was there too. Naruto then turned to Shikamaru. Hey Shika, can you help me pick out some stuff for my wedding to Ten-chan, he asked. Shikamaru smiled then nodded. He didn't have anything to do since it was his day off. He decided to help Naruto. He motioned to Choji if he wanted to come. Choji nodded and got up. The three went out the door to pick up Kiba. As soon as Kiba joined, the four went to different shops and stores. Me and Ten-chan decided to split the tasks. We aren't buying anything just yet, but we have to look around, Naruto mentioned to the others. Man Naruto, you just got engaged, are you really to do this right now? Kiba motioned to Naruto. Naruto looked at Kiba. Haha no Kiba, we aren't doing anything concrete for a few weeks, we just want to look around, Naruto said to Kiba. Oh okay. Just thought you guys were going too fast, he said to Naruto. Shikamaru then turned to Naruto as they went into a glass maker's store. So exactly, what are you looking for right now? Shikamaru said to Naruto as they went into the store. I am looking for plates and other utensils for our wedding, Naruto said as everyone looked at the many different types of plates that the shop had. Hey Naruto, how does this one look? He asked as Naruto inspected the plate. After close inspection, Naruto nodded his head. No sorry Kiba, I need something more Tenten-ish, he said as Kiba put the plate down and inspected more. Choji held up a round one and motioned for Naruto. Naruto looked at the plate. It was certainly better than the one Kiba had, but this one felt much heavier than the plates used for food. Naruto decided to use the onyx-colored plate as a holder for the real plates. He took out a notepad and put the plate down for purchase. He noticed Shikamaru was staring at a plate that looked really nice. Hey Naruto, I think Tenten might like this one, Shikamaru said, causing Naruto to come to his side. He gave the plate to Naruto. The plate was a little expensive, it was a bit smaller than Choji's plate, it was less round and had a design of kunai and flower pattern circling the plate. Naruto looked at the plate in awe. He pulled out his notepad and took down all the necessary information for the plate. He then went to see what Kiba was staring so much at. Hey Naruto, are these good for your wedding? He said to Naruto. Kiba was glancing at forks, spoons, and knives. Naruto could see definite potential in all these utensils for his wedding. He glanced at the silver forks and spoons. Also taking note of all sharpness of the knives. He wrote down the needed information for this too. As Naruto motioned for everyone to go, he saw a familiar face. Planning for the big event already, Naruto Uzumaki, said the sand cage as he walked up to Naruto. Meanwhile with the girls, so Tenten, what are you looking for? Hinata asked as they strolled down the street. Tenten turned to Hinata and smiled. I am looking for the place to have the wedding for now, she said as she smiled at the girls. Ino was really excited about the event. She happily came when Tenten asked her to join. Hinata happily came to offer her opinion too. As they walked, Sakura asked Tenten. So what is Naruto doing? Tenten turned to Sakura. Naruto-kun is looking into the utensils for the wedding with the guys, she answered to Sakura. Sakura nodded as they spent another 14 minutes walking until they came up to a building used for weddings. Here we are for right now, Tenten said to her little group went into the building. They were greeted by a man in a black suit. Why hello ladies, what can I do for you today? He asked. Tenten turned to face him. Hello sir, I am the one who called last night, Tenten said as she faced him. Ah, Miss Tenten, who called for her wedding, he said realizing it was her. Yes sir, can you give me a tour of this room? She asked. The girls behind her were looking around the room. The lights illuminated a yellow light over the room. Ah, yes Miss Tenten, right this way, he said as he showcased the room to her. Ah, this room is able seated 500 people and has a dance floor suited to 50 pairs of people, he said. Tenten was obviously impressed by the room. It was what she wanted. She was sure Naruto would like it too. Though she had a question. Sir, are these lights customizable? She asked pointing towards the ceiling. She had an idea if they were. Yes ma'am they are. We use a variety of customs to please our customer, he said. She smiled knowing she could now do her idea. Before she did she turned towards her friends. What do you guys think of this place? She asked turning to them. It's nice, I like it, Sakura replied. Yeah, you and Naruto will be good here, Ino stated. This is a very good place, I approve, Hinata said. Confirming their opinions, Tenten took down the location and the building. She wrote down all the necessary information for the building. She and her friends turned to leave. She had what she wanted for today. Okay girls, it's time to go, Tenten announced as the girls left through the door. Meanwhile with the guys, Gaara. I can't believe you're here, Naruto said as he ran up to Gaara. Hehe. I can't believe you're getting married, he said. Naruto chuckled at the statement. As the other three Chunin walked out of the store, Naruto turned to everyone. Guys, I would like you to be my best men, Naruto said to everyone. They were happy to be chosen as Naruto's best men. Everyone nodded that they would love to. Okay. I want Shikamaru as my best man, Naruto said to them. Shikamaru felt honored to be the best man. He turned to Gaara. Hey Gaara, where is Tamari? He asked. Oh, she went to go find the girls, Gaara said answering Shikamaru. He shrugged as they walked. Well everyone, it is late, let us all go home. If there are no missions for everyone tomorrow, will you guys help me again? He asked them. They all nodded in agreement, even Gaara was getting into the wedding. Meanwhile at the girls, Tamari had caught up to the girls. They all went through the memories together. Tamari finally started another conversation. So Tenten Uzumaki, not a bad name, Tamari stated. Tenten blushed at the name. Yeah, it sounds good on me, don't you think? She asked. Everyone nodded in agreement that it did. So how did you come to love Naruto, Tenten? Hinata asked. He just kept appearing in my mind. After the Chunin exams, I couldn't stand to think about anything else but him. I love him with all my being, she said. This caused all the girls to squeal out loud, except Tamari, who just smiled. Well girls, it's late, time to go home, Tenten said. The girls got up to leave. If everyone is free tomorrow, will you help me again? Tenten asked. All the girls nodded that they would. She gave them another statement. I would love for you girls to be my bridesmaids, she said. They girls gladly accepted as Tenten turned to Sakura. I want you to be my personal bridesmaid, Tenten said to Sakura. Sakura jumped for joy as they all left to go home. Tenten met up with Naruto and the guys. Everyone looked at the two for their final question. When is your wedding? They all asked. Both answered. On April 18th this year, they said. This was 8 months away. More than enough time to do a wedding. Alright, thank you, we will totally be there, everyone answered. Everyone went their separate ways. Naruto and Tenten were headed back home having a little talk. So how was your day, Ten-chan? He asked. It was great, Naruto-kun, but I wish you were with me, she said. I know, me too, but we will have enough time together tonight, he said to her. That's right, Koibito, shall we go home? She asked. Why yes, Kanojo, we can go home, he answered. They walked home in each other's arms. Their date has been set. Their future looks bright. They are very happy with what is to come. On a hot day in Konoha, a couple was training in the intense heat. They wanted to keep their skills sharp. This, however, didn't interfere in their private lives. They were always together. Ever since a proposal made by the blonde, neither could stay apart from the other for too long. They always enjoyed each other's company. Both were happily going through the necessary things for marriage. As their training ended, they packed up their stuff and went home. Hey Ten-chan, it's time to go home and change, we have missions to go on, the blonde stated to his lover who had finished packing. Okay. Got it, Naruto-kun, let's go home, she said as they ran off towards their house. Upon arriving at their house, the two went inside to get changed. As they came out, they were shocked to see someone at the door. Naruto, Tenten, come with me right now, Kakashi said out of breath. He had been running all around the village looking for the two. Confused, the two looked at him. Why Kakashi? What is the problem? Naruto asked. Tenten nodded, agreeing with Naruto. Kakashi was obviously in a hurry. He didn't want to stop and explain this, but he told them. Lady Tsunade has summoned you too. It is an emergency, he said, motioning them to come with him. Believing every word of what he said, the two lovers ran after him at full speed to the Hokage mansion. Everyone raced upstairs and knocked, opening the door to a frantic Hokage. Lady Tsunade, I have brought Naruto and Tenten as you have requested, Kakashi answered. Tsunade looked up to see the couple with looks of confusion on their faces. Good, thank you Kakashi, you may return, she said, trying to calm down. Kakashi bowed and left. Naruto and Tenten, still confused, stepped up to the Hokage's desk. What is the matter, Ba-chan? Naruto asked. What is the emergency? Tenten asked. Tsunade looked at the two and tried to calmly explain things. She didn't know if this would put a cramp into their marriage plans, but she didn't have a choice. There is an emergency cage summit that is to go on in 10 days in Snow Country, she said to them. Both of their eyes shot open. To have all 5 cages in one place meant serious business for all villages. There was never a real reason for all cage to come together except if it was an emergency. Going back to the question, Naruto turned to Tsunade. So why have you summoned us? He asked. Tsunade looked at him in utter seriousness. All cage were to arrive with 2 or 3 personal ninja guards from their own villages. Tsunade considered Kakashi and Anko, but thought that Naruto and Tenten having beat Kakashi was a better choice. I want you two to accompany me to the cage summit as my ninja guards or companions, she said to them. They looked at her, then at each other. Going to a cage summit was a very big deal. Anyone would be happy to go. Naruto looked at Tenten and smiled. She smiled back at him, knowing his answer to this matter. We accept, Ba-chan. We will be your ninja guards, Naruto stated to the Hokage. Tenten nodded in agreement with Naruto. Tsunade got up from her desk and walked towards the two. Thank you. I really needed you guys on this trip, she said with a smile. Both nodded their heads. They were always happy to help their Hokage with whatever troubled her. So when do we leave? Tenten asked. Naruto turned from Tsunade to Tenten and back. We leave tomorrow at 5 o'clock p.m., she stated. They nodded that they understood. They left to go pack for the journey into Snow Country. As they left, they discussed what happened in the room. Man, a cage summit. I wonder what the problem is. Tenten said, concerned. Naruto looked at her a little worried. He tried to lighten the mood. Well, let's not stress over it. We have packing to do, and besides we are the strongest couple in Konoha, he said to lighten the mood. Tenten turned to him. She couldn't help but smile. He could always make her feel relaxed no matter the situation. You're right, Naruto-kun. Let's go pack, she said as she ran ahead. Naruto gave chase as the two came to their house. Naruto opened the door and brought out 2 sealing scrolls. They each to a separate scroll and started to pack all the essentials into their selective scrolls. Tenten had taught Naruto how to seal objects in scrolls for more packing conveniences. Naruto in turn taught Tenten to fully master the Shadow Clone Jutsu for being able to get things done faster. After 2 hours of packing, Naruto and Tenten rested on the top of their bed. Tomorrow we leave, right? She asked him, knowing the answer. Yeah, that's right, we go then, he said to her. Both feeling tired from packing, they went back outside to relax. After 20 minutes of walking, they ran into Shikamaru and Hinata. Wow, it's rare to see only you two together, Naruto chuckled. Sighing and rubbing his head, Shikamaru replied. No, we are just going to meet our senseis for something important, he explained. Naruto and Tenten nodded that they understood. A question popped into both their heads. Oh no, we won't be able to plan the necessary stuff when we are away, they thought. They turned to Shikamaru and Hinata. They smiled, which startled the two Chunin. Bowing their heads, the two asked their question. Shikamaru and Hinata, we are going to a cage summit tomorrow. We won't be back for who knows how long. Can you help get all the necessary stuff we need for our wedding? They begged. Looking at the two, Shikamaru and Hinata nodded that they would. Their only condition was to be able to bring the others. Agreeing to the condition, Naruto and Tenten gave them the notepad with all of their information. They looked over the pad and nodded. Sure man, we can do this while you guys are gone, they replied. Thanking them, Naruto and Tenten decided to spend the day at Ichiraku Ramen and looking over town for new weapons. Seeing a few new kunai and shuriken in store, the two bought more supplies as well as food. They left to go home when it was dark. Well, this was an interesting day, wasn't it? Naruto asked as Tenten laid on his shoulder. Yeah, it was. I have a feeling in 10 days things are going to get more interesting, she said to him. He nodded, agreeing with her. As they appeared in front of their house, Naruto unlocked their door and they went inside. Naruto laid on the bed along with a tired Tenten. Naruto looked at her. She was so beautiful to him. Her beauty drew him closer to her, causing him to give her a light kiss on the lips. Reacting the kiss, Tenten woke up and smiled at her lover. Wow, now I am wide awake, she said as she smiled. She leaned in closer to Naruto, returning his kiss with a deeper and more affectionate one. She put her arms around him as she drew him closer to her. He put his hands around her, feeling the warmth of her slender body. He was about to go further, but stopped to tease her. Sorry, Ten-chan, but we will continue when this thing is over, he said. She pouted a little, but blushed as she thought of them continuing their night. Hee, you are such a tease, Naruto-kun, but I will wait, she said as she laid back and went to sleep. Good night, Koibito, she said to him. He looked at her and smiled. Good night, Kanojo, he said to her. She looked at him and smiled. Naruto went to sleep next to her. Both slept with dreams about the other. Next day, Naruto woke up to the splendid sunshine. He woke Tenten, who yawned as she got up. Both had pleasant dreams about the other. Naruto was the first to break the silence. Well, today is the day, he said to her. She nodded at him and smiled. Yes, it is. Shall we get ready? She said to him. He nodded as they got up and got dressed to start the day. They picked up their scrolls and placed them well hidden into their clothes. Naruto wore his regular orange and black suit, but it was covered by a red sage coat that was given to him by Jiraiya as a present. Tenten wore a traditional Chinese white dress with her red pants. She also had on a golden bracelet used to enhance ninjutsu power. The title on the bracelet said, Naruto. As they got dressed, they ran out the door. They decided to spend the rest of their time looking over the village until it was time to go. 4 hours later, knowing it was time to go, Naruto and Tenten made their way to the front gates of Konoha. As they arrived, they said their hellos to the gatekeepers. Waiting 15 minutes, the Hokage showed up. She saw them waiting for her. Are you two ready to go? She said to them. Nodding that they were, the three headed out. The three turned back to see the village, then kept walking. As they walked, they all engaged in a great conversation. So how are the plans coming for your wedding? Tsunade asked the couple. They looked at each other and smiled. It's coming along great. We are starting to buy and order things, they said to her. Tsunade laughed as their conversation continued for 5 hours. After the 5 hours, they entered into Wave Country and decided to take a break. As Tsunade rested, Naruto went and got them a drink for the local vendor. Ah, thanks Naruto. Thank you Naruto-kun, they said as they took sips of the cold drink. After resting for 2 hours, they decided to continue their journey. They had come up to the bridge in Wave Country. Tsunade and Tenten were shocked at the name on the bridge. Naruto-kun, how did this happen? Tenten asked, started at the title of the bridge. Even I can't believe this, Tsunade said. To tell you the truth, even I don't know about this, he said. Deciding to hold on the question, the three passed the bridge. And passed the town with Naruto saying a few hellos to Tanzuka and his son. After 8 more hours of walking, the group was in Sun Country. It was nighttime and everyone was dead tired. Tsunade put everyone into separate rooms. She had one room and Naruto and Tenten had another. Everyone went to sleep to get ready for the next day. The Cage Summit has been opened. Every cage is coming to discuss important issues. This will be most important in the ninja history. 9 days later, Tsunade, Naruto, and Tenten have made it into Snow Country. Everyone has put on their extra clothes trying to keep warm. Along the way the group ran into Gaara and his two siblings. Tsunade suggested that they all travel together. Gaara complied with the request. Even was close to the Cage Summit. A particular couple was staying extra close to each other. "Man, I feel so warm next to you, Ten-chan," Naruto said as she blushed. Everyone couldn't help staring at the couple. Gaara was obviously staring the most. He may have been the cage, but even he didn't have a girl yet. Tenten looked at Naruto and smiled at him. "I feel warm next to you too, Naruto-kun," she said as they cuddled some more. After 2 more hours of walking, everyone saw a large building in the distance. They had arrived at the summit. Naruto and Tenten decided to part from each other to both of their displeasure, but they had to look presentable as ninja. Everyone came up to the council guard as the cage stated their names and ranks. "Name and rank and associates," the guard demanded. Gaara came up first. "Name: Gaara. Rank: Cage of Sand. Associates: Kankuro and Tamari," he stated. The guard bowed as he let the sand ninja through. Gaara and his group waved goodbye to Tsunade's group as they went ahead. The guard turned to Tsunade demanding the same information. "Name: Tsunade. Rank: Cage, Hokage of the Leaf. Associates: Naruto and Tenten," she said as the guard bowed and let them in. Everyone was happy to be out of the cold and got adjusted to the heat of the building. "Ah, finally some heat," Tenten said, moving her muscles to get the blood flowing again. Naruto didn't really need to. He had been circulating his fire chakra throughout his body. He had used it to give Tenten the heat she felt earlier. The meeting was set to happen at 4 p.m. Everyone had 2 hours to do what they wanted. Tenten motioned to Naruto. He looked at her. "What's up, Ten-chan?" he asked, a little concerned. She looked at him and answered his question. "Naruto-kun, will you accompany to get something to drink?" she asked. Naruto nodded as they left the Hokage in her room. Tsunade watched the two leave. She needed quiet to get some paperwork done. She spent the past 2 hours doing paperwork. 2 hours later, Tsunade was walking to the meeting room. She was getting worried that Naruto and Tenten hadn't met her yet. "Man, where are those two?" she wondered as she arrived to the meeting room. The room was medium-sized with a round table suitable for seating all 5 cage. There was a hidden room in the back for each cage's associates. Tsunade looked to see Naruto and Tenten in the hidden room already. She smiled as she sat down. Gaara was the next to come in. He gave Tsunade a greeting and took his seat across from her. Kankuro and Tamari gave Naruto and Tenten a hello as everyone's gazes met the others. Soon after, Gaara the Raikage came with his associates. He was a big man with dark skin and 2 golden braces covering his wrists. After him, the Mizukage showed her face. She was a woman in her mid-30s. She had long orange hair that covered one of her eyes. She wore a blue ninja dress as she sat between the cage and the Raikage. The last to enter was the Tsuchikage. He was an old man with a very short stature. He walked in and sat between the Raikage and Hokage. Well, all cage have been assembled, huh?" said the Tsuchikage. The Raikage grumbled before giving a much unneeded comment. "It would be called the Cage Summit if we all weren't assembled, would it?" he snarled. Playing peacemaker, Gaara tried to calm them down. "Come on guys, we all just got here, let's not start a brawl," he said to them. The Mizukage smirked at Gaara trying to play peacemaker. She looked at the Raikage and Tsuchikage. "Wow, even this cute boy here has more patience and sense than you two," she smiled. Raikage got infuriated and stood up. "Damn old bitch, don't you ever shut up," he shouted. Mizukage suddenly formed a vein in her head as she stood up mad at the Raikages yelling. Why don't you try and think with what little in that head you have, she yelled. Everyone was on edge except Gaara and Tsunade. They shared a glance and could only put their heads down as the fight between the three Kage continued. Naruto and Tenten were enjoying the show. Everyone in the hidden room was trying to contain their laughter at the situation, until the Raikage said something unnecessary. He pointed at Tsunade. And you, what are you smirking about, you bitch? He questioned. Tsunade had on a look of certain death. She glared at everyone. Naruto grabbed Tenten, who looked confused. Naruto-kun, why are you holding me? She said as she noticed him put chakra to his feet as they stuck to the ground. He noticed Kankuro and Temari did the same. The other associates didn't know why they were doing so. Naruto looked at Tenten. Trust me, you will want to hold on to me, he said. She didn't argue and held him. She still didn't know why. Tsunade channeled chakra into her fist as she hit the floor. Tenten, Kankuro, and Temari now realized why Naruto had done what he did. Tenten was lucky she held on to Naruto. Kankuro and Temari were lucky they followed Naruto's lead. Tsunade had hit the building so hard, she made the building turn to the side and appear to stand on its side. The building, due to gravity, came crashing back down on its flat surface as everyone looked at her, scared for their lives. Tsunade took her hand out of the hole she made and smiled with a look of death at the Raikage. Now let us all quiet down, sit down and do this meeting, okay? She said with a demon mask appearing behind her. Everyone nodded to behave as she sat down. The associates were on the ground. All except Naruto, Tenten, Kankuro and Temari. They all sat back down. Tenten looked at Naruto. Thank you for that save, Naruto-kun, she said as she sat back down. Naruto looked at her. Of course I would save you, Ten-chan, he said as everything got settled down. After 13 minutes of weird silence, the councilman came in. Alright, let's get this meeting over with, he said as he stood and put his documents on a stand. The Kage agreed. Recently there has been a recent rise in Akatsuki activity around the neighboring countries, he explained to the Kage. Well, border patrols haven't found anything suspicious about this, Mizukage said to him. Tsunade muttered under her voice. Well duh. They are Akatsuki, they won't be found so easily, she said. The Mizukage ignored that comment and continued to listen. If they are moving in the neighboring countries, then they are obviously looking for something, Tsuchikage stated. Raikage got up and pointed at Gaara. It's because of freaks like him our countries are in danger, they are obviously after the Biju, he stated. Gaara tried to calm his mood from the accusation of the Raikage. He turned to the Raikage with a counter of his own. Well, if that's the case, then your little brother is as big a freak as me, if not bigger, he stated. Raikage got up and grabbed Gaara by his vest. You gonna repeat that? He stated. He looked back to realize Kankuro had a kunai to his throat and one of the Raikage's associates had their kunai to his throat as Gaara had his sand aimed at the associate. The Raikage laughed. Haha. Watch where you step, Kage, he said as he put Gaara down. Kankuro withdrew his kunai and so did the associate. Gaara's sand went back into the gourd. Likewise, oh, and just so you know, my Biju was stolen already, so I am not a target anymore, he said to the Raikage. Raikage sat down as the councilman continued. Raikage does make a valid point, he said. The Kage nodded. Naruto and Tenten were on edge at the events going down. Man, never knew these things were like this, he said to his lover. She nodded. Yeah, it really is intense, she said to him. The meeting continued. That is why I propose that we have the Biju and their containers locked up in case of emergency, he stated. Tsunade immediately reacted to that suggestion. Alright, that suggestion is out of here immediately, she said. The ninja containers, as you call them, are just as much human as use. It's it fair they get locked up over something out of their control, she said to everyone. The cage didn't really like the idea. It just didn't sit well with them to do that. The Hokage is right, I can't go along with that, Tsuchikage stated. Raikage, Mizukage, and Kazekage all nodded in agreement. The councilman decided to stop with that suggestion. Alright, so what should we do then? He turned to her. She smirked and gave her reply. Well, I don't know about the Raikage's brother, but our guy is stronger than me, she said. Everyone couldn't believe their ears. The Hokage had gotten beat by the Jinchuriki. She smirked at their reactions. Our ninja can take care of himself, she said to them. Raikage got up a little frustrated. Oh, so you think he can take care of himself, he said. She looked at him. That's right, Raikage, she said. He smirked. Well, I can't wait to fight him, he won't be so then, he stated to her. He looked at the councilman. He nodded that he wouldn't interrupt them. Tsunade could only smile. She waved her hand for Naruto. Naruto noticed and immediately took the stage. Naruto, think you can beat the Raikage? She asked. He looked at her, then at the Raikage. Why, sure, Ba-chan, he is good, but I can beat him, Naruto said to her. The Raikage got mad. Oh yeah, punk, well, tomorrow at 7 p.m, you better be ready, he shouted as he stormed out. His associates left with him. Naruto looked at Tsunade. Well, I have something to do tomorrow, he said. All the cage left to get rest. They would see an exciting match tomorrow. Gaara gave Naruto a good luck sign and left. Tenten appeared next to Naruto. Well, Naruto-kun, you can beat the Raikage, I am sure you will be cage level, she said. Tenten had never seen Naruto use his Biju for power, but she knew he didn't need it. She and Tsunade knew that Naruto was now above cage level, but the other cage didn't know that. Well, go prove to them why you are qualified to be Hokage, Naruto, Tsunade said to him. He chuckled, then nodded as they left. Tomorrow will be epic. As day approached the cage summit, Naruto woke up to the beautiful sight of his brunette sleeping next to him. He kissed her on the cheek. Feeling his kiss, the brunette smiled in her sleep as she dreamt. Naruto chuckled as he got up and walked towards the window. He opened the curtains. He saw it was still snowing. He really didn't know whether it was day or night. The snow covered the sun, so he wasn't even sure what time it was. Man, today is gonna be a real drag, he said as he chuckled at what he said. Man, for me to quote Shikamaru is surprising, he said as he closed the curtains. Naruto headed for the showers to wash up. After Naruto left for the showers, Tenten woke up to see that Naruto was gone. She looked around, worried only to hear the shower running. Oh, I guess Naruto-kun is in the shower, she said as she got up to get some water. Tenten sat at the table with her cup of water. She had been thinking about Naruto's match. I know Naruto can beat the Raikage, but I wonder how strong the Raikage is, she muttered to herself. She didn't realize that the shower stopped and Naruto had walked over to her. She still kept talking to herself. Oh, what am I saying? Naruto is gonna win and that's it, he is the best, she said and stood at the same time to see Naruto looking at her smiling. And Naruto-kun, how long have you been there? She said, feeling embarrassed as he pondered. Naruto replied to her question. Oh, I came in at around. Naruto is gonna win and that's it, he said as she blushed. He decided to tease her a bit. Well, I guess I can't lose, can I? He said to her. She smiled at his question. She decided to stop pondering over the match and just decided to cheer for him. She decided to head for the showers too. As she left, Tsunade knocked at the door and came in. She spotted Naruto with his clothes on. She looked around, but couldn't find Tenten. Hey Naruto, where is Tenten? She wondered. Naruto smiled, then pointed at the showers. She is taking a soak, Ba-chan, he said as he walked up to her. Hey Ba-chan, what time is it? He asked. Tsunade was shocked that he didn't know the time. She looked him in the eye. Naruto, it is 6:45 p.m., she said. Naruto's jaw dropped to the floor. He had 25 minutes to make it to the outside battle between him and the Raikage. What? It's that late, he said as he rushed out, not waiting for a response. Tsunade was about to call him back before he turned around and went back into the room. He went into the fridge and pulled out a roll. He bit the roll as he sat on the bed. Can't forget breakfast or Tenten, he said. Tsunade had her head down and smiled. Even when things are serious, Naruto is still Naruto, she chuckled as Tenten came out of the shower. Tenten turned to see Tsunade in the room. Hey Tsunade-sama, when is Naruto-kun's match? She asked. Tsunade looked at the time. In about 6 minutes, she replied. Tenten hit the floor. She wondered why Naruto didn't leave yet. Yaren, Tugon Naruto-kun, she shouted as he finished his roll. I couldn't forget breakfast, nor you could I. He chuckled. She smiled and blushed, happy that he had stayed behind for her. She gave him a hug as she hurried to get dressed. Putting on her clothes, everyone rushed out the door and ran through the hall. They made it to the arena with 1 minute to spare. Raikage looked at Naruto. Well, it's about time you came, he shouted. Naruto looked down at the Raikage. Well, I am happy you waited for me, he said as he jumped down and landed across from the Raikage. Well then, let's get started, he said as all the cage focused on the two. Tsunade joined the rest of the cage. So who do you guys think is going to win? She asked them. Raikage, said Tsuchikage. Raikage, said Mizukage. Naruto, said Gaara aka Kazekage. Naruto, said Tsunade. Me, said the confident Raikage. His associates smiled at each other. They believed no one could match their Raikage, let alone beat him. As the two gave their final comments, Tenten appeared between the two. Okay, we will begin this match. Naruto versus Raikage, she said. She wanted to say kun for Naruto, but resisted to show professionalism. Her hand came into the air. Naruto and the Raikage looked at each other's eyes. Tenten's hand came down as she signaled for the fight to begin. Naruto and the Raikage disappeared from view. The shock waves of sound were easily distinguishable to all the ninja. The two were moving at very high speed. The snow falling didn't make seeing any easier. Both appeared across for the other, sliding from the snow. They both adjusted themselves as they went back at each other. Naruto sped to the Raikage and attempted a roundhouse kick at the Raikage. Raikage chuckled as he grabbed Naruto's foot and flung him across the plains. Come on brat, you gotta be better than that, he mocked. Naruto landed back on his feet. What Raikage? Don't you know warm-ups are essential when fighting? He smiled. Raikage grumbled at the other cage, laughing at him. He made some hand signs and Anusta jutsu. Lighting release. Thunder armor, he said as lighting appeared around him and covered his body. The cage stopped laughing as the Raikage disappeared and appeared behind Naruto. He kicked Naruto square in the back. Naruto was launched all the way into some nearby trees as everyone heard a crash. Rakiage smiled as he waited for the blonde to emerge. His associates laughed. Wow, this guy is no match at all, he is just plain weak, they said. Tenten had the urge to slit their throats, but repressed the urge thanks to Tsunade. She decided to wait so she could mock. Naruto emerged for the trees, undamaged by the power of the Raikage. This kid might be a bit tough, he said as he increased his speed. He disappeared in front of Naruto and tried to hit him again, but was stopped by Naruto palms. Naruto looked up at the Raikage. Okay, that was good, my turn, he said as he kicked the Raikage back a few feet. He put his hands together and focused. Tenten and Tsunade knew what he was doing. He was releasing his gravity seals. None of the other cage or associates knew about this. Raikage chuckled as marks appeared around Naruto then disappeared. So you made yourself lighter. That doesn't give you the, he said as he realized he was kicked far from the group. He looked up to see Naruto was right next to him. Naruto then kicked him into the air. As the Raikage entered the air, Naruto jumped up and disappeared. Everyone on the ground was shocked at what they were seeing. Naruto was equal if not stronger than the Raikage. Naruto appeared next to Raikage and punched him to the side, then disappeared. He appeared again and hit the Raikage down. Everyone just couldn't talk. Naruto was performing a less powerful version of the Hidden Lotus. Tenten and Tsunade smiled at everyone's reaction. They knew how strong Naruto was. Naruto did a final kick, sending the Raikage high into the air. Both were completely gone from everyone's view. Tenten knew what Naruto was gonna do. Tsunade turned to Tenten. Tenten, what is Naruto going to do? She asked. Tenten turned to Naruto and smiled. Just watch, this is more powerful than the Hidden Lotus, she said as she looked back up. Tsunade looked back up also. The Raikage couldn't fathom what was going on. He couldn't defend against any of Naruto's attacks. He was more than frustrated as Naruto appeared in front of the Raikage. Well, be happy, Raikage, I get to do a new jutsu on you, Naruto said as he kicked the Raikage in his stomach and propelled them back down to earth. Because they were so high, the air around them started to combust as they were surrounded by fire. The sky turned orange for the fire as everyone was shocked to hear Naruto yelling. Fire style. Meteor crash, he said as he sent Raikage into the ground. Raikage gasped at the attack as he fell down. Everyone ran to see the results. Naruto was over the Raikage. Before he fainted, Raikage picked up Naruto and flung him over to the others. He decided to end everything. He had been fighting too long and was low on chakra from trying to keep his body intact from Naruto's jutsu. He stood with one arm up and the other broken. I will end it here, lightning style. Supreme Thunder Dragon Bombs, he said. A ray of intense lighting shot out his mouth and towards Naruto. Naruto was a little low too from his acts in the air. He decided to end things too before the Kyuubi started to come into play. He formed his hand signs. Fine, let's end it here, fire style. Supreme Fire Dragon Bombs, he shouted as intense fire came for his mouth. The two jutsus collied and battled it out for supremacy. Both were low on chakra, but were pushing their limits in the clash. Everyone was nearly blinded by the light from the blasts. Tsunade looked worried. This battle has gone on for 4 hours now. This clash will be the end to everything, she said as she continued to watch the beams battle. The Raikage was being to push Naruto's fire back and his lightning became bigger. Naruto could feel he was losing, he was being pushed back by the force. Man, if I don't end it now, I will lose, he said as he formed a just you with on hand. His arm began to vibrate as he shouted his final jutsu. The added cold was lowering his flames and he had to hurry. Wind Saintly. Crescent Wind Blade, he shouted as he threw his arm forward, sending a blade of wind resembling the crescent moon appeared and enhanced the fire enough to push back the Raikage's lightning until his flames knocked the Raikage back. He ended his jutsu and looked at the Raikage, who was out cold. Hee, I win, Lord Raikage, he said as he sat down. Everyone was shocked. Naruto had beaten 2Kage with his power. He didn't even need the Kyuubi for this. Tenten ran to Naruto and hugged him. You did it. You won, Naruto-kun, she said as she hugged him. Nice work, Naruto, Tsunade said as she walked towards him. He smiled as he looked at the others. Gaara was smirking at the results. Mizukage couldn't speak. Tsuchikage fainted. Tsunade turned to the group. Well, now that we know who is stronger, shall we head back? She said, getting nods from the still shocked audience. Everyone went back to the building. Raikage woke up in the snow. He chuckled at himself. Well, that kid great, I had a good time, we will fight again, Naruto Uzumaki, he said as he got up and went back to the building with his associates. Naruto has beaten another Kage. Naruto's power is incredible. How good is Tenten? As the snow continued to fall in Snow Country, everyone had gone back inside after the fight between Naruto and the Raikage. Everyone was surprised at the spectacular turn of events. Naruto had beaten 2 out of the 5 Kage. To Tsunade, Naruto probably beat 3 out of 5 counting Gaara, but this was before he was Kazekage, so she didn't know. As everyone settled down to a warm fire trying to keep warm, they all went over the match. Man, I still can't believe that Naruto beat the Raikage, Kankuro said, sipping his tea. Temari nodded next to him. She was more shocked than Kankuro at the match. No kidding, Naruto doesn't play, does he? She said, looking at Naruto. She knew Naruto was an excellent fighter, but to match a Kage, let alone beat one, has rarely occurred. Well, in any case, I believe Naruto has made my point to the Raikage, Tsunade said, chuckling. She turned to see Naruto fall asleep on Tenten's lap. He had really exhausted himself from the match with the Raikage. Naruto Uzumaki is always an interesting one, Gaara said. Everyone nodded as they looked at the time. It was 12 o'clock a.m. for everyone. They all yawned as Tenten woke Naruto. Yawn, what's up, Ten-chan? He asked as his eyes got adjusted to the light. Naruto-kun, we are all going to bed. Since you're tired, you should come too, she implied as he nodded, agreeing with her. After one more yawn, he got up and walked with the rest of the group. Everyone went to their designated rooms. Naruto and Tenten went into their room and quietly went to sleep. Tsunade went to her private room and slept. Temari went to sleep also. Kankuro and Gaara laid in their separate beds. Gaara was actually feeling tired for once. He had never had sleep before, but without the Shukaku inside him, he could now sleep without fear of transforming. Huh, so this is what sleep feels like, he said as he drifted off. 10 o'clock in the morning. Tenten woke up to see Naruto still sleeping beside her. She smiled as she knew how tired he must have been from yesterday. She gave him a kiss on the cheek as she went to the washroom. She got dressed and took a breath of air. She knew it was still snowing, but she ignored it. Man, Naruto-kun's match yesterday was amazing, she said to herself, and she went to the cabinet and took out a packet and heated up some coffee. She sat at the table as she took a sip of the warm drink. Smelling the coffee, Naruto woke up to see Tenten at the table. Ah, good morning, Ten-chan. Wait, it is morning this time, right? He asked. She laughed as she turned to him. He always knew how to put a smile on her face. Yes, Naruto-kun, it is morning, she said as she took another sip of coffee. Naruto got up off the bed and went to the washroom. Tenten heard the shower running as she imagined her lover's body. As she sipped her coffee, Tsunade bursted into the room with a lot of excitement. Where is Naruto? She asked up close to Tenten. Tenten was startled by the entrance and moved back a bit. Naruto-kun is in the shower, she replied. Tsunade grumbled as they waited for Naruto to get out. The silence was awkward around as Tenten took a final sip of her coffee. Tenten decided to break the silence. So why do you need to see Naruto? She asked as Tsunade turned to her. Tsunade looked her. He is needed in the cage meeting room, she said, frantic. Tenten's eyes shot open at the statement. She didn't realize that the match yesterday left a big impression on all the people who watched. Naruto exited the shower to see Tenten and Tsunade talking. He put on his clothes as he came back into the room. Hey Ba-chan, what's up? He asked. Tsunade turned to him and grabbed his arm. She pulled him out of the room and ran down the hallway with Tenten right behind her. No time for hellos, Naruto, you have to come with me now, she said as they entered the cage meeting room. Naruto saw bright lights and a chair in the middle of the room. He sat down on the chair as he felt the intense stares on him. Tenten entered the hidden room and joined the other associates. What is going on? She asked. The others shrugged their shoulders, showing that they didn't know either. As Tenten sat down, the cage began to speak. Well, judging from yesterday, I would say that Raikage has no complaints about his power, Tsunade said to a grumbling Raikage. Everyone smirked at the Raikage who had his head down. He got lucky, Raikage boasted, but to no avail could he get them to believe him. He didn't believe it either. He knew Naruto was stronger than him. Well, the way he tossed you around like a toy in the sky says that he has more than luck, Mizukage said as they continued. Gaara started. Well, in any case, Naruto totally won't lose to any Akatsuki member, Gaara stated. Everyone nodded as Naruto looked at them in confusion. He felt like he was being cross-examined for a crime. Well, the boy certainly has more than enough potential to be a powerful asset, Tsuchikage said to them. Gaara looked concerned and turned to Tsunade. Tsunade, it probably isn't my place to ask this, but how strong is his girlfriend? Gaara asked as Tsunade turned to him. She could see where Gaara was going with this, but the others didn't. What does the kid's relationship have to do with this conversation? Raikage asked a little frustrated. Gaara turned to the Raikage. Well, I have no doubt that Naruto can beat an Akatsuki member, but what if she is captured and they use her for leverage? He aimed to the Raikage. Everyone nodded now, seeing where Gaara was going. If Tenten was captured by the Akatsuki, then all the power in the world couldn't help Naruto. Tsunade motioned for Tenten. Tenten showed up next to Naruto. Well, this girl here is Naruto's girlfriend and she had also beaten me, Tsunade said. Raikage slammed the desk, which caused everyone to look up. Enough of this, Tsunade. You expect me to believe she had beaten a Kage too? He shouted. Tsunade looked around the room. She could tell everyone would need convincing again. Well, are we going to test her this time? She asked. Everyone thought about the incident yesterday, but agreed. They highly doubted that the brunette was the same as Naruto. Everyone nodded in agreement for a second match. Tsunade turned to Tenten. Is this all right with you, Tenten? She asked. Tenten nodded with a look of seriousness. Tsunade nodded as she turned to the rest of the cage. So who is fighting this time? He asked with a smile. Everyone looked around, but no one answered. Not me. I have fought enough, Raikage said. He was out. I was lucky against just one Akatsuki member. I am not the Kage for this, Gaara said. He was also out. This left the Mizukage, Mei Terumi, and Tsuchikage, Onoki. Mei smiled as she stood. Very well, I shall have a go at the girl, she said. Tenten turned to her as she formed a smile on her face. Tsunade and Naruto were ready to see Tenten fight. She hadn't gotten much action since her last mission with Naruto and the others. So what time is the fight this time? Tsunade asked as everyone tried to think of an appropriate time. 8 o'clock p.m., said Mei as she sat down. Tenten grumbled. Why night? Why is it always night? Do these people have something against morning or afternoon matches? She wondered. Naruto smirked at her reaction. She turned to him and smiled also. Naruto got up from his seat. Well, is there still something to discuss? He asked. Everyone turned to Naruto. They pondered his question, but couldn't think of anything. No, that's it, you may go, said the Kage as Naruto and Tenten left. The associates left also. The Kage soon followed and continued the day. Man, I have only 5 hours until I fight her, Tenten said in a nervous tone. Naruto placed his hand around her. She still couldn't relax. Ten-chan, he said to her. She didn't hear him as she thought. Ten-chan, he said again to no avail. She was still so nervous over the match. She was too busy thinking to notice they stopped walking and Naruto's face was inching closer to hers. She snapped out of her thinking to become entranced by the kiss he had given her. She was now fully out of her thoughts as she returned the kiss. After a minute of the kiss they parted. Naruto looked at Tenten, who was still dazed by the kiss. Well, now that I have your attention, Ten-chan, you must calm down, he said as he hugged her. She felt his warmth on her as her beating heart had slowed down until it was back at its regular pace. Okay, Ten-chan, you will do great, trust me, I will be watching, you will not lose, he said to her. She smiled as she nodded. You're right, Naruto-kun, no use getting worked up over it, she said as they continued to walk. With his words, Tenten felt relieved that he was there for her. She knew she wouldn't lose if he was watching her. They walked off as Tenten came up with a new jutsu on the spot. She smiled at wanting to try it out of the Mizukage. The two returned to their room as they waited for the designated time. Tenten now has a match. She comes up with another jutsu. How good of a jutsu is it? 3 hours before 8 o'clock p.m. Tenten was in the middle of the woods thinking about her match with the Mizukage. She knew that with Naruto watching she could win with all she had. She knew she wouldn't lose. She still stood in the snow training to perfect her new jutsu that she had formed in her mind. She was looking a little exhausted and decided to stop. Man, I have it perfectly in my head, but doing it in real life is difficult, she said as she headed back to the compound. She knew she would have to get it right before the match, but she decided to fix the problem during the match. She ran into Naruto who was out looking for her. "Oh, there you are, Ten-chan," he said, happy to see her. She smiled as she ran up to him. She gave him a quick kiss as she replied to continue the conversation. "Sorry, Naruto-kun, did I worry you?" she said with smile. He laughed as he nodded. He took her back to the compound to help her get ready. As they arrived at the compound, Tenten and Mei exchanged an intense glare at each other that only lasted for a few seconds, but it felt like hours to the both of them. Mei smiled as she continued walking. "Man, I wonder how strong she is," Tenten said as she walked with Naruto back to their room. As they entered their room, Tenten put a scroll on the bed. Naruto was carrying a few kunai and shuriken as Tenten sealed them into her scroll. As he carried more, she sealed more. Her mind wasn't really on the sealing of the items. She was really thinking about how to perfect her jutsu. As she pondered, a brilliant idea came into her head. She turned to Naruto and smiled. Naruto looked in confusion at the smile she had on her face. "What are you smiling about?" he asked as he snapped her out of her thinking. She ran up to Naruto and gave him a deep kiss that seemed to shake his entire body. After the kiss, his body fell to the floor with a look of shock. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, I know how to win now," she said as she went outside with her scroll. She came back into the room to realize that the match wasn't for another 30 minutes. She decided to take out a packet of coffee for a quick drink. As she drank her coffee, she chuckled at Naruto, who was still on the floor from the kiss Tenten gave him. As she snapped him out of his daze, he got up to look at the time. Tenten now had 4 minutes to get to the grounds. "Ten-chan, you're really like me," he said as she took her final sip of coffee. "What does that mean?" she asked, confused. Naruto laughed a little as he pointed at the time. Tenten's eyes shot open as she ran out the door. Naruto followed after her as they headed for the grounds. Tenten felt deja vu as she arrived with a minute to spare. "Have I done this before?" she wondered as she stood across from the Mizukage. Both women smiled as Tsunade took a bet again. "So who do we think is going to win this time?" she said. Everyone smirked, thinking they knew the result this time. "Mizukage, Onoki Tsuchikage," said as he smirked. He knew he wouldn't be wrong this time. "Mizukage," said Raikage. He wasn't sure how strong Tenten was but felt that she couldn't beat Mizukage. "Tenten," Gaara said. He felt like believing that she could. He always liked the underdog in situations. "Tenten," Tsunade said. She knew Tenten's power and decided to choose her. "Me, Mei Terumi," Mizukage said as she stood across from Tenten. Tenten grumbled a little, but felt happy that she had a few cage supporters. She looked at Naruto as he came between the two women. "Okay, match, Tenten vs Mizukage," he announced with his hand in the air. Tenten looked at Naruto one more time for support. He smiled as he wished her luck. "You may begin," he said as his arm came down. He immediately backed away to get out of the fight. Both women didn't move from their positions. They had adopted a wait-and-see attitude on the other. Tenten smirked as she started to talk. "I believe the higher ranks have the first move," she said as the Mizukage smiled. "Hee, this will be interesting," she thought as she threw out a kunai at Tenten. Tenten easily dodged the kunai to see Mei in front of her. Mei hit Tenten in the stomach as she was propelled across the snowy field. Damn, I let my guard down, she said as she stood from the punch. Wow, to let your guard down on a cage, it shows how overconfident you are, Mei said. Tenten grumbled as she appeared in front of the Mizukage. She tried to land a punch, but it was easily blocked as Mei sent Tenten into the ground. Everyone watching was laughing, except Tsunade, Gaara, and Naruto. Haha, this girl beat you, Tsunade, you must be a weak ass then, Raikage said, still laughing. I knew this girl was all talk, Onoki said as he laughed also. Naruto turned an intense stare at the two. Both were a little shocked to see Naruto smiling. And why are you happy about you girl getting beat, huh? Said Raikage, trying to read Naruto's face. Please, I have known Tenten for a good few years, you think I don't know when she's holding back, he said. His words shocked the two Kage. For a person of lower rank to hold back on a cage was very rare. Turning back to the fight, everyone saw Tenten get off the ground and land a kick in the Mizukage, sending her into the snowy area. As she stood, she formed an electric current in her palm. She charged her hand and sent the electricity straight for the Mizukage. As the Mizukage got up, she realized she couldn't move. The electricity from the ground froze her movements. Oh well, this is a predicament, she said as she formed a hand sings. Tenten jumped into the air over the Mizukage as she unleashed her weapon scroll into the air over the Mizukage. Manipulated tools. Heavenly chain of destruction, she said as thousands upon thousands of ninja tools dropped from the scroll as they were aimed at the Mizukage. From the audience and Mizukage's view, the tools looked like white streaks of lightning. Mizukage smiled as the blades all rampaged on the single target. The jutsu ended with 3 giants' chains appear from the scroll. Tenten disconnected the chains from the scroll as they dropped on top of the devastated area. How do you lie that? She said with a smile as she landed back on the ground. Not bad, said the Mizukage as she came out of the debris. Tenten was a little shocked, but she shrugged it off. Of course she wouldn't go down, that would be too easy, she said as she saw a majority of her tools melted. Looking in confusion, she turned to the Mizukage. Mizukage smiled. Oh, let me educated you in my skills, she said as she started to form hand signs. Tenten created a bit more space between herself and the Mizukage. Time to turn up the heat, lava style. Lava geyser, she said as the ground began to shake. Tenten tried to find meaning in the words of the jutsu. She realized what was happening and tried to jump out of the way as geysers of lava erupted from the area. Tenten barely dodged them all as she realized that the geysers formed a triangle seal. The Mizukage smiled as she clasped her hands together. Lava style. Molten destruction, she said as the lava came together and exploded around Tenten, leaving a giant mist of heat. Mizukage smiled at her work and turned to head back to the group. Well, that's that, she said as she walked back. She noticed Naruto still smiling. She looked back at the mist, but didn't see nothing. Why are you smiling, boy? She lost, Mizukage said to the smiling Naruto, who ducked his head. Mizukage felt a hard object on her face as she was sent across the field again. Tenten had planted her foot to the Mizukage's face and sent her flying. Tenten smiled as the Mizukage made a loud hit to a tree. You think I am out of this? Think again, she said as she formed a few hand signs. She clasped her hands together as lightning enveloped Tenten's body. She smiled as she disappeared. She kicked Mizukage to the other side of the field, then back. Tenten was moving so fast, she was probably moving faster than Naruto in his previous match. Wow, that speed is incredible, Gaara said as everyone except Tsunade and Naruto stared at the Mizukage taking a beating. Tenten had done a similar jutsu to Lee, but combined Naruto's jutsu. Lightning Stlye, Mad Dance of Infinity, she said as she moved fast enough for 3 afterimages to appear. She slammed Mizukage 3 times into the ground, causing the ground to erupt. Mei was shocked that she was actually getting hurt. She had been on edge like this for a while. As she got up and punched Tenten off of her, she looked a little mad at the situation. That's it, she said as she formed her biggest lava jutsu. Everyone back up as she finished the hand signs at Tenten. Lava style. Earth's final fire, she said as she gathered fire from the Earth's very core. She formed it around her body. Tenten could see that the situation was getting too dangerous to handle. Mizukage finished gathering the fire from the Earth's core. She smiled at Tenten. Just try and live after this, she said as she concentrated the energy into her hands. Tenten saw the perfect opportunity to try her new jutsu. She turned to Naruto. Naruto-kun, watch my love for you, she said as he blushed at her. Tenten didn't care about professionalism at the moment. She did her hand signs as she announced her new jutsu. Twin nature style. Shining dragon blast, she said as she took the water from the surrounding area. She formed a giant water ball in the air. After that, she took the lightning around her and drove it into the water. With the electricity in the water, it made the water more powerful. Tenten opened her arms as she brought them closer. Everyone stared in awe as the ball was shrinking. Tenten was concentrating the giant ball into a small one as she took it into her hands. She moved her hand back and was ready. Mizukage was a little more than irritated at the sight and fired her jutsu. A blast of pure heat and fire. The fire was so hot that it burned white. Tenten fired her jutsu that was dark blue water with lightning coursing through it. As the jutsus collied, they knew that they were evenly matched. The fire and water mixing was creating an intense steam that seemed to cover the entire area. This girl is amazing, Mizukage forced herself to admit. She could see why Tenten might have beaten Tsunade. She looked at Tenten, who seemed to be struggling with the clash. Hehe, this is going to be easy, she said as she pushed her jutsu a little more, hoping to end the clash. She tried, but she saw that she couldn't finish it. She saw Tenten still fighting. Man, why can't I end it? She said as she tried more, but to no avail could she end it. Tenten smiled at her. She wasn't struggling at all, she just wanted to enjoy the clash a bit. Hey Mei, this is my win, Tenten shouted. Naruto, knowing what that meant, shouted to the others. Everyone get back, take cover, get lost, he said as everyone followed his orders and backed up a lot to see the clash from a safe distance. Tenten formed with her free hand one more jutsu. Lighting style. Dance of Thor, she said as furious lightning came from the sky and came between the two jutsus, separating them. As Mizukage's fire was backed up, Tenten's blast was passing through the lightning, making it bigger. Being part lightning already, her just you had no trouble passing through the lightning. It overpowered Mizukage's jutsu as she was sent into a forest of trees and landed in a big explosion. Tenten rested her hand as her had a few burns on it from the jutsu. I guess I should perfect it more, she said as she looked at a fainted Mizukage. Everyone had their jaws to the ground. Not only Naruto, but his girlfriend had beaten a cage too. What kind of shinobi are they? Onoki said with a dazed look. Gaara and Tsunade answered him at the same time. They Konoha shinobi, they said as they headed back to the compound. Raikage fainted also, but woke up and walked back to the compound. Tsuchikage went back to with his head down in depression. Tsunade and Gaara were all smiles. Naruto walked up to Tenten. So you won, he said to her. She smiled. Well, it's good to have your lover watching you, she said. She told to Naruto that when he went Four Tails during their training with Jiraiya, she saw him condense his chakra into a blast, and that is how she got her new jutsu down. He smiled as he escorted her back to the compound in his arms. She fell asleep from the chakra exhaustion. Mizukage woke up and chuckled. He guess I lost. I am not looking forward to the laughter at the compound, she said as she, with the help of her associates, walked back to the compound. Tenten has also beaten 2 Kage now. Is there an Akatsuki member they can't take down? 12:30 a.m. in the morning. Everyone was walking back to the compound as they remembered the match between Tenten and the Mizukage. They all gathered around the fireplace to discuss the current issue. Man, I still can't believe that they have beaten two Kage separately, Tsuchikage said as he took a sip of his tea. I know, that Uzumaki kid sure can fight, Raikage said as he rubbed his stomach remembering his fight with Naruto. He learned not to underestimate Naruto anymore. Well, I believe that those two have validated my point, Tsunade said as everyone nodded in agreement with her. After 30 minutes, the Mizukage joined the group and sat down next to the fire. She chuckled to herself as she joined in the conversation. That girl is more than worthy of being that kid's girlfriend, she said as she got comfortable on the couch. Tsunade looked at Gaara and smiled. He nodded his head in agreement as she turned to the Mizukage. I think you mean to say that girl is more than worthy to be that kid's wife, Tsunade said as all the Kage looked at her. Smiled at seeing everyone's reaction to her comment. You can't be serious, Tsuchikage said to her. She nodded. You mean to tell me? Raikage stuttered to her. She nodded again. Wow, I can't believe this, Mizukage said to herself. Yeah, when Naruto and Tenten get married they will be Konoha's strongest couple, Tsunade said to them. They couldn't believe their ears. Everyone suddenly thought about signing a treaty with the Hokage. Man, I don't want to be their enemy, Raikage thought. I don't want to get beat again, let alone in front of my own ninja, Mizukage said to herself. I should give a treaty with Konoha some thought, Tsuchikage thought to himself. Gaara breathed a sigh of relief. I am so happy that I am already their ally, he said to himself. Everyone now knew about the blonde and brunette's engagement. They all gave their full support as they turned to see Tsunade thinking heavily about something. What is the matter, Tsunade? Gaara asked her as she snapped out of her daze. She looked at everyone as she let them in on her thoughts. Oh, sorry everyone, I was thinking of a new rank for the two, Tsunade said to everyone as they looked at her in confusion. She tried to elaborate more on what she was thinking. What I mean is that they have beaten us and can't obviously stay Junin, can they? Tsunade said to the rest of the group. Everyone nodded in agreement with her as they all thought of a rank for the two. Yeah, that is true, they are definitely far from Junin and Anbu, Raikage said to the group. So what rank should we give them? Tsuchikage asked as everyone pondered. After an hour of thinking, Mizukage came up with a name. She drew everyone close to her as she announced the new rank. Okay guys, how about we give the new rank of? Back at their room, Naruto and Tenten were packing to go back to Konoha with their Hokage. They knew that news would soon spread of what they had accomplished at the Kage Summit in a matter of time. As Naruto packed, he stared at Tenten. She looked more beautiful to him than before. He wasn't sure if it was her match or his love for her or both. He just knew that she looked so much more lovely. Tenten noticed him staring and blushed at the intense stares he was giving her. She replied to him. What is it, Naruto-kun? She asked as she snapped him out of his daze. He blushed knowing that he was staring at her. He replied to her question with a smile. Just enjoying my heaven, he said. Her heart started to beat faster from the nickname he gave her using half of her name. She walked up to him and wrapped her arms around him. See, hee, is it pleasing to you? She asked him. He nodded that it was. His time with her was his most precious thing. She looked up at him. I wonder how our helpers are doing back in Konoha, she said as Naruto got a little shocked. He was so busy spending his time with Tenten he didn't forgot that he left Hinata and Shikamaru in charge of a few things for their wedding. Yeah, I can see Hinata using her gentle fist to wake up Shikamaru, he said as she laughed. They both laughed as they stayed in each other's arms. Tenten could always feel safe and secure in his arms. Both wanted to feel close to the other tonight, but resisted the urge because of the number of people in the compound and didn't want to be barged in on, much less by the Kage. As they stood in each other's arms, they turned to see Tsunade at the door with a smile on her face. Am I interrupting something? she said as she came in. Both blushed as they parted. No, nothing at all, they said, trying to calm their beating hearts. Tsunade looked at both and decided to let the matter go for the time being. I need you both to come with me, she said as they looked at each other in confusion. Why, what is the matter? They asked. Tsunade tried to hide the smile that was coming through her face, but resisted to try to be serious. I just need you guys to come now, she said as she left the room. They followed her back to the cage meeting room. They were surrounded by all 5 cage as they sat down. Raikage began. We have seen your abilities and powers, he said to them. Tsuchikage continued. We have seen your courage and perseverance, he said. Mizukage followed. That is why we will be giving both of you new ranks, she said. She continued. These ranks are not given to any other ninja and is entirely yours, she said to them. They looked at each other as Tsuchikage took over. We have gone to the council and they agreed. Naruto, you will be given the rank of Tengokage, false cage, and Tenten will be his advisor, Tsuchikage explained. Naruto and Tenten couldn't believe their ears. They were going to be given ranks that were not given to any other ninja in history. They bowed their heads in excitement. The cage chuckled at their reactions. Raikage turned to Tsunade. Hehe, I like these two. Tsunade, when we have negotiations about our villages, invite these two with you, Raikage said as he turned to her. The other cage nodded in agreement with him. Tsunade smiled as she turned to Naruto and Tenten, who more than happily accept the Raikage's option. Tsuchikage explained to them. This new rank allows you to go in S-rank missions and attend the cage summit, he said as he explained. Unlike the cage, you can't govern your own country, but your opinion is just as valued as the cages in meetings like this, he said to them. The two bowed in gratitude at the cage as they left. They couldn't believe their luck. They motioned everyone outside. The cage walked outside to see them in the snow. Let us show you something as a thanks, they said. Everyone looked confused, even Tsunade and Gaara. They didn't know what to expect. We will show you this jutsu, Tenten said to them. Naruto stood behind Tenten as they made some hand signs. Twin nature style. Elemental dragon, they said as the water, thunder, fire, and wind around them went into the sky. All the cage looked up in awe. These kids, Raikage said in shock. They will change history, Mei Terumi said. I can't believe this, Tsuchikage said as he looked up. I have no doubts about my successor, Tsunade said to herself. I always admired you guys, Gaara said in awe. Everyone said a white dragon appear out of the sky showing its glory. It looked like a dragon made by the gods. It was so beautiful and magnificent. The two only showed it, they didn't unleash it for fear that the snowy area wouldn't be an area anymore. The dragon disappeared as they smiled to each other. They had one more surprise. They bit their thumbs and performed a summoning. Out of the smoke came a mythical being. The cage couldn't form words. They summoned the kings of the summons, the white dragon, Shinsei. Everyone fainted from the sight. No one could possibly summon him. They looked in awe at the mighty dragon and fainted. Did I miss something? Shinsei asked the two. They nodded. Haha, no Shinsei. We just overdid it and summoned you, sorry, they said as he nodded and disappeared. They walked over to the fainted cage. Think we overdid it, Tengokage? Tenten asked her blonde lover. He smiled and replied. Well, with any luck they will wake up before they freeze to death, he said as they picked up the cage and returned to the compound. They both can summon the king of summons. They also have new ranks. How much of the world will they be able to change? It was early morning or early night at the cage summit. Tsunade and her associates were packing up to go home. They had actually stayed longer than originally planned at the summit. As she packed, Tsunade muttered to herself. I can't believe it. Naruto is now a cage or false cage, she said as she continued to pack. She was overjoyed that Naruto and Tenten had gotten their new ranks. She knew that when she got back to the village, word of what they had done was going to spread like wildfire. I wonder how the world is going to change when we get home. She said as she had finished packing and went to get Naruto and Tenten. She knocked on their door, but there was no answer. She knocked a little harder, still no answer. Tsunade started to get worried as she punched the door open. She saw that they weren't in their room. Tsunade looked around as she saw a note on the table. We went out for a bit, we'll be back in 10 minutes, the note said as Tsunade chuckled. I must be getting old to worry about those two, she said as she put the note down. She noticed that their stuff had been sealed into their scrolls so they were ready to go. As Tsunade waited for them, she remembered the past events of the trip. Man, this was just supposed to be a meeting, and yet it turned into such a big ordeal, she said as she remembered her brother and lover. He has your drives, she said as she sat on the bed. After 20 minutes, Naruto and Tenten had walked in their room to see the Hokage waiting for them. Oba-chan, we are ready to go, Naruto said as he and Tenten smiled. Tsunade chuckled at them and picked up her scroll. She placed it in her clothes as she walked out the door to the entrance. See you guys at the entrance, she said as she left. Naruto and Tenten smiled at each other as they picked up their scrolls and left the room. As they walked, Tenten stared at Naruto. My Naruto is the Tangokage, she thought as a smile came to her face. Naruto noticed she was staring at him and turned to her. What's the matter, Ten-chan? He asked as he snapped her out of her daze. She blushed at the sight of him. They had been together for a long time, but his face was always one of the features that could still make her blush. She turned to reply to him. Oh, I am just happy that I am going to be the wife of the Tangokage, she said as she wrapped her arms around her lover's arm. Naruto blushed at the comment. In truth, he had no idea that he and Tenten would be leaving the Cage Summit as Cage-level ninja. He was happy about the new rank, but he really wanted to hurry home and see how Shikamaru and Hinata did with the wedding plans they left them. As the two walked towards the entrance to see Tsunade there waiting for them. Hey Tsunade-sama, did you waited long? Tenten asked as Tsunade looked at her and smiled. Tenten, you don't need the sama anymore, all three of us are equals now, so it's my first name with both of you, she said to Tenten. Tenten and Naruto nodded that they agreed. Tsunade motioned her hand and the group of three left. As the three went on their journey back to Konoha, everyone remembered the events that transpired at the Cage Summit. So Naruto, where did you learn that jutsu from that gave the Raikage such pain to his stomach? Tsunade asked, curious to Naruto's new jutsu. Naruto smiled as he replied. Oh, that, well, I remembered when Lee fought Gaara at the Chunin exams, I took my move off of him, Naruto said, answering her question. Tsunade nodded as she understood what Naruto said as he had explained the Chunin exams to her that year. Tsunade looked at Tenten with a face that asked a similar question to Naruto. Oh, my jutsu was from seeing Naruto and Lee move so fast that I made a jutsu out of it, though it hurt the legs, she smiled as she wobbled. The jutsu did a little number on her legs. Tsunade had tended to them, but she told Tenten to stay off of them for the next few days. Naruto looked at Tenten wobbling and smiled. Naruto stopped for a bit to pick her up bridal style as he continued to walk with a shocked Tenten who was in his arms blushing. What are you doing, Naruto-kun? She said to him. He smiled at her as he bent his head down to match hers. You heard Tsunade 2 days ago, you have to stay off those beautiful legs of yours, he said as he continued to walk. Tsunade was too stunned by Naruto's action that she didn't notice he had used her name for the first time. She stared at the couple until she chuckled as Tenten blushed in Naruto's arms. His strong arms that she loved were all hers. She had him to herself. As she stared at his physique, she slowly drifted off to sleep with pleasant dream about her future husband. Naruto chuckled as he looked at his heaven sleeping in his arms. He knew that he could never do better without her. He planted a kiss on her cheek as the brunette's cheeks lit up into a bright red. As Naruto and Tsunade walked, they came up to the first town. Everyone stayed there for an hour and decided to go. They left on their journey back to Konoha. Tenten chuckled as Naruto had picked her up again. In truth, her legs had felt much better, but she wanted to stay in his arms for a bit longer. Tsunade noticed the action by Tenten and could only smile. I guess she just wants to be in his arms a little while longer, Tsunade said as they continued their journey back to Konoha. 10 days later at 7 o'clock p.m., the group of 3 had gotten back to Konoha. Tenten was no longer in Naruto's arms, but decided to wrap his arms around her for the rest of the trip. As they neared the gates, a few of Konoha's shinobi came to greet Tsunade. Lady Hokage, it is good to see you back in Konoha, one of the shinobi stated. Tsunade greeted them and had Naruto and Tenten following. They looked back at the 2 shinobi whispering something as they smiled. Hey guys, why are you whispering? Naruto said to the 2. They stopped whispering and tried to evade Naruto and Tenten's gaze. Oh, it's nothing, Naruto. Yeah, nothing at all, they said as they ran off. Naruto and Tenten turned around in confusion at each other as they walked back to the village. It took them another 10 minutes till the village gate. As they entered the gate, the 3 noticed that the entire village was dark. That's weird, this place is usually bustling at night, Tsunade said as they entered the middle of the village. Suddenly the lights shot on as the entire village lit up at the surprise at the 3's arrival. Hooray for the new couple marriage, yelled one of the villagers as Eveon came out and celebrated them. Naruto and Tenten were shocked at the turn-off events from the villagers. Naruto and Tenten, congratulations, said everyone in the entire village. Tenten had formed tears in her eyes and Naruto could barely speak. Everyone had helped Shikamaru and Hinata with the wedding. Tenten saw the most beautiful testament to their wedding. Naruto followed the mood and picked up Tenten and he gave her a kiss as they walked between the crowd of people. Hooray for Naruto, hooray for Tenten, let us have another party in their honor, said a village, but Tsunade intervened. Everyone quiet down, I have some news, Tsunade yelled as the entire village's cheering came to a halt. Tsunade walked up to Naruto and Tenten. I want to say what happened during the Cage Summit, she said. She turned to the entire village. As everyone knows, Naruto and Tenten have beaten me in a one-on-one battle, she said to them. Everyone nodded. No one saw where she was going with this, not even the Anbu. At the Cage Summit, Raikage challenged Naruto and he won, and Mizukage challenged Tenten and she won, Tsunade announced to everyone. Every person, ninja and citizen of Konoha had been dumbfounded by the news. The couple had now beaten 2 Cage each. And congratulations of their accomplishments, the Cage have granted them new ranks, they are no longer Junin, she said. Everyone was still shocked over them beating the Cage, they couldn't imagine more news. Naruto and Tenten are now Cage level ninja. Naruto has been given the rank of Tangokage, and Tenten is his advisor. These are new ranks given to both by the Cage, she said to everyone. The people stood in silence as all the food that some people had in their hands dropped to the floor. Tsunade smiled as she covered her ears. Yay! Everyone shouted at the top of their lungs. The most powerful couple are Naruto and Tenten, and they are Konoha shinobi, someone said. Everyone gave another cheer. Hooray for the new Cage and his advisor, they all shouted. Everyone took the couple and a party rang from the village. The celebration was even bigger than Konoha winning an all-out war. Everyone didn't feel the least bit tired as they celebrated with the new couple. Tsunade smiled as she joined in the festivities. The party lasted for 4 hours. As people went home, Naruto and Tenten, feeling tired, decided to go home also. Man, that was fun, the Tangokage said to his brunette. She smiled at him as they opened the door and put all of their stuff away. Neither was feeling tired. Tenten looked at her lover with hot passion as she motioned closer to him. Naruto noticed her advancement and came closer to her. Both had the unbearable urge to be next to each other as they came closer together. Both made the other feel good, as they stayed up all night spending their precious time together. As they laid in their bed, Tenten smiled at Naruto. Hee, that was a fun party, she said as she snuggled closer to her lover. Naruto smiled at her. I know, I also saw all of the stuff Shikamaru got minus your stuff, he said. Tenten smiled knowing she had met Hinata and saw all the stuff she had gotten also. You know I will love you forever Ten-chan, Naruto said as he looked into her eyes. She could see all the seriousness in those words. Of course I know, and I will love you forever Naruto-kun, Tenten said to him. He smiled at her as the couple went to sleep. They were going to need it. Tomorrow will be something amazing. Naruto and Tenten trust each other so much. Nothing can break such trust. What is going to happen tomorrow? 3 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon. Everyone in Konoha was starting to wake up for the day. Everyone woke up so late due to the intensity of the party last night. As everyone rose, the famous couple of Konoha made its way to the Hokage mansion as they were greeted by some of the citizens. Good afternoon Tangokage-sama, a female citizen said to the blonde. Naruto blushed as he bowed his head as a thanks. Tenten blushed also, as everyone had seen her cling to her soon-to-be husband's arm. Oh good morning, future Tangokage's wife, said a man to Tenten as she too bowed to the citizen. They had gotten similar remarks from all the villagers until they got to the Hokage mansion. Naruto and Tenten hoped that the Sama stuff would stop now, however that was not the case. They arrived at the door to see the two gatekeepers bowing their heads. Lord Tangokage, Hokage-sama is waiting for you, one of them said as they kept their heads bowed. Naruto's head went down also as he didn't like being referred to as Lord. He was just a false cage, but this was one of the benefits or non-benefits of the title. Naruto whispered to Tenten. Man, even with these people here I am called that, he said to her. She chuckled at him as she leaned close to his ear. She knew he didn't like it, but they couldn't help that. It's okay Naruto-kun, it is just the benefit of our new ranks, she said with a smile that seemed to calm him down. He chuckled as he looked at her. He knew she was right. He was happy that she was able to calm him down. Yeah you're right Ten-chan, well let's go see what Tsunade wants, he said to her. She nodded as they walked up the stairs into the Hokage mansion. They entered the room to see Tsunade at her desk doing her paperwork. Tsunade looked up at the two and smiled. Oh Naruto and Tenten, please come in, she said as they came in and sat down. Tsunade stopped her paperwork and looked at the two. What I will say might make you both a bit tense, she said as her smile turned into a serious face. Both ninja looked anxious and they waited for Tsunade to reveal her news. Tsunade noticed they were and decided not to keep them in suspense. The Raikage and Mizukage messaged us, and they want to meet the new Tangokage for treaties between villages, she said as she stared at the shock of the two. Both reacted to the statement as they looked at Tsunade. Again. They yelled as they thought of having to walk a long way again. Tsunade could only smile at the two, who were sorely disappointed in the announcement. We haven't even been back a day and we are going out again. Tenten said to Tsunade who nodded her head. It is one of the responsibilities of the cage, Tsunade said as she smiled. Naruto studied her face. He suddenly gasped as he had figured out the reason she was smiling. We are going so you don't have to, he said as he pointed a finger of accusation at the Hokage. Tsunade smiled as she knew Naruto figured out her ploy. You mean we are your substitutes? Tenten said trying to understand. Tsunade got up from her chair still smiling. Substitutes is such an ugly word, you are my mediators between villages, Tsunade said as she continued to smile. Naruto countered with another smile. Tsunade wondered why he smiled as he stared at her. You know Tsunade, you shouldn't trick people like us, you did get beat before you know, Naruto said as he smiled. Tsunade had a drop of sweat fall down her face. She didn't want to be reminded of such an incident. She realized she had tricked the wrong people. Hee okay sorry for tricking you, but please do this for me, she pleaded. Seeing the Hokage in a bit of distress, Naruto grudgingly agreed to go. Tsunade thanked him as they left. They turned to her as they opened the door. Oh, when we get back your punishment will be coming, they said as they left laughing. Tsunade sat in her chair terrified. Oh no, what have I done? She said as she stayed in her chair. Naruto and Tenten left mansion to go back home and once again, pack for another journey. Tenten looked at Naruto. He really didn't want to do this, but he had agreed at the Cage Summit to be a meeting that involved village alliances and problems. He was a man of his word and he wasn't gonna break that. They meet more people who gave their respects to Naruto and Tenten. As Naruto and Tenten got to their house, they sealed another 10 days of clothes. As they had packed all their essentials and headed out the door. The pack took at least 4 hours due to a shortage of ninja tools for the brunette. 8 o'clock p.m. at night. I can't believe we have to do this again, Naruto said as they walked out of the village gate. Tenten nodded, but had a smile on her face. True, but at least we are alone now, she said as she blushed. Naruto looked at her and smiled. He couldn't get enough of her. I know, I will enjoy our time together, he said to her. She blushed as she realized the hidden message. Me too, Koibito. Me too, she said to him. Naruto was a little surprised. She hadn't called him that for a long time. He turned to her and smiled. Well then, Kanojo, let's make a run for it, he said as he ran to the first chuckled at him. Hey, you got a head start, she said as she ran after him. Both were happy to be together. They weren't thinking about the mission assigned to them. The time alone was sheer bliss for the two. They didn't have many opportunities to be alone, but they were more than grateful for this time. Naruto chuckled as Tenten ran up to him. I guess I can forgive Tsunade this time, he said to his lover. She agreed with him. They had a wonderful time together. The only thing on the other's mind was their lover. The world was completely separated from them. In the moonlight, both looked so magnificent that they appeared angelic. They smiled as they came to the first town. Naruto chuckled to himself as he faced Tenten. How about we stop at the third village? I don't want our moment of privacy to be destroyed just yet, he said to her. She smiled at him as they ran through the first town. They took back to the trees as they crossed Konoha's borders. Arriving at the second town, but stopped for a bit to get some food and some drinks. After an hour in the town, they left. Both were having such a time together, that they weren't even sensing the things around them. They just instinctively dodged everything as they couldn't keep their gazes off the other. As the two headed for the third town. After 2 hours of running and staring at each other, the two made it to the third town. Naruto signed them up for a day at an inn as both took a shower and went to sleep. Back in Konoha, Tsunade was frantic at putting everyone to work. Come on, we have 15 days before they get back, Tsunade shouted to all the ninja and citizens who were rushing to get everything done. The couple's wedding was in 2 months as everyone was getting preparations done. Sorry Naruto, sorry Tenten, but I can't have both of you seeing things like this, she said as she chuckled. She wanted to do her best with the wedding and she got everyone to help around at the place the two had made their wedding hall. Tsunade couldn't believe it, she was gonna see the blonde and the brunette get married. Oh, thank Kami for those two, I want them to be happy, Tsunade said as she saw Shikamaru sitting down. Hey Shikamaru, have plenty of time for rest, back to work, she said to him as he saluted her and ran off. Shikamaru muttered to himself. This woman is such a slave driver, he said as he saw a shadow over his. He turned around to see the Hokage's fist aimed at him. He jumped out of the way as a crater was made into the ground. I heard that Shika. Now back to work, she said as he ran off. Tsunade chuckled. I can't wait for those 2 months, she said as she went to work too. In Wind Country, Lord Raikage, The Hokage has replied that Naruto and Tenten are on their way, one of the guards said to him. Raikage smiled as he looked out the window. Very good, I can't wait to see them again, Raikage said to the guard. The two had made a lasting impression on him. He had been a much happier Kage after the meeting which surprised his village. He had come to fully respect the couple. He wanted to give them support through the treaty. Raikage went to bed as he chuckled to himself. Naruto Uzumaki, the greatest Kage of all time, he said to himself. Now that is a title for the kid, he said as he slept. He need to get his rest as the Mizukage, Meitarumi, was coming in a few days for the same purpose. He was looking forward to the meeting. Back in town, Naruto and Tenten were sleeping soundly. The two were having pleasant dreams about the other. Then a loud noise came from the inn. People were all running and screaming. The place was getting attacked by rogue ninja. Naruto and Tenten woke up very upset at the noise. Man, can't a couple get any sleep, they said as they walked outside the inn to see 24 rogue ninjas in front of the inn. Both were tired and didn't feel like getting dressed. The guys whistled at Tenten in her sleepwear, much to her displeasure. Well, lady, how about you ditch the loser and join us? One of them said to her. Naruto was pissed as he looked at Tenten, who was even more pissed. Naruto knew she didn't like to be disturbed at 4 o'clock in the morning. Tenten and Naruto took out 1 kunai each. You guys interrupted our sleep over such trivial crap? She asked as they smiled and nodded at her. Tenten did some hand signs as lightning appeared around her. In a quick flash she was gone, and in under a second she was back at Naruto's side. She grabbed Naruto's arm. Come on Naruto-kun, let's go back to sleep, she said as Naruto smiled. The rogue ninja were curious because nothing happened. One pointed up his arm. Hey, where do you two think you're? He said as he saw his arm fall to the ground. He screamed in pain as 20 more slashes appeared across his body. He fell over dead. The other rogues felt their bodies twitch as everyone was getting cut by something they couldn't see. Tenten smiled. She was too fast to see as she cut everyone in their vital spots. Everyone screamed as they fell over dead. Naruto smiled at Tenten. I think you overdid it, he said to her. She smiled at him. I don't think so, she said. The townspeople thanked them. Both bowed their heads and went back into the inn. They were still dead tired. Naruto had chuckled because he saw that Tenten had her eyes closed the whole time. I love this woman, he said as both went back to sleep. Well, Naruto and Tenten are one another journey. What does Tsunade have planned for the two?